I am Sully, but now I have become Death, destroyer of managers' careers.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever they're calling it these days, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. But the best way to get a hold of me is right here on the YouTube channel. Leave your comments right on the bottom. Hey, today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. And let's talk a little bit about the trivia question. The trivia question was, in the first ever game, which was regular season game of a Subway Series between the Mets and the Yankees back in 1997, which New York Met stole home in the first inning of the first game of the first ever regular season Subway Series? A couple of people guessed various Mets from those mid to late 1990s, but only the Duke 1986 got it right. Todd Hundley. I said, lifelong diehard Mets fan here. Love listening to podcasts every day on Apple Podcasts. Apple Podcasts is our friend. Apple TV is not when it comes to baseball broadcasts. But yes, you got it right. It was Todd Hundley, the catcher, stole home. And this was 1997. So it was at the point before the arrival of Mike Piazza. Mike Piazza was still with Los Angeles in 1997. He didn't come over to the Mets until 1998. And Todd Hundley, who was a super popular player on that Mets team, there were people who were against the acquisition of Mike Piazza in the 1998 season because it would displace Todd Hundley. You know what? Sometimes, folks, you have to let go a tiny bit. You don't always replace your fan favorites, and sometimes players don't fit. I'm about to go out on a limb and say Mike Piazza fit, but Todd Hundley, in his last full season as the Mets starting catcher, stole home. Yep, he stole freaking home. And there you go. A couple of things to talk about, but why did I bring up the Oppenheimer quote at the beginning of this episode? Well, about a week or so ago, I did a podcast about the managers. Actually, it was a little more than a week ago, but it was very recent. I did a podcast on managers who were on the hot seat. And I brought up Bud Black of the Rockies. I brought up Mr. Shelton of Pittsburgh, brought up Mr. Hyde of the Orioles, and I brought up Schneider of uh, the Blue Jays. I also brought up Marmol of the Cardinals and Baldelli of the Twins. I'll get to them in a second. But three of the ones that I mentioned have all been fired since then. Shelton was a bit of a no-brainer. Again, I don't wish firing on anybody, but sometimes you got to make a move. And Bud Black was just they have to do something about this unacceptable start. By the way, the managerial change hasn't exactly brought in winning ways to Colorado, but Brandon Hyde's firing today by or I'm sorry, he was relieved of his duties. That's the worst euphemism. He wasn't relieved of his duties. He was like, oh man, great. I'm out. Thanks. Oh, someone else has got this? Great. No. He was fired. Let's just say it. He was fired. And the Baltimore Orioles fired Brandon Hyde. And I think this is the most interesting of the managerial firings that have happened recently because the Pirates have been bad for a while. And this was just basically, all right, we need to change some stuff up. And a big reason they have to change that stuff up is an ace has fallen onto their lap. A good pitching staff has fallen into their lap. And while the Cubs are a good team, they are not exactly destroyer of worlds. And the fact that the Pirates remain an uncompetitive team, despite having number one overall picks and highly touted prospects. They've fallen apart. They need to do something. And so the move of bringing in Bell to be the new manager, made sense. If for no other reason to say that what is happening with this team is just not acceptable. Did I say Bell? I'm sorry. Don Kelly is the manager. Forgive me. I was mixing up managers of the National League Central in my head, and Bell used to be the manager of the Reds. Forgive me. My brain is late. The firing of Bud Black again was, just a long time coming. Warren Schaefer has not exactly brought in the winning ways to the Colorado Rockies. The firing of Brandon Hyde, I think, is the most interesting because this does make a lot of sense for this reason. This was a team that had a window of opportunity in 2023. They won 100 some odd games. They made it as the division winner. And I scolded the team in 2023 for hoarding their prospects when the time to win was right then and now. Pull off a trade to strengthen their rotation and be bold, because the Red Sox were bad that year. The Yankees were bad that year. It was wide open for the Baltimore Orioles. They had piles and piles of top prospects who could have brought in a lot of players to make the team better, and they didn't. They didn't pull off a big blockbuster trade. They were swept in the division series by the Texas Rangers, who, by the way, made some bold moves down the stretch, and also, by the way, won the World Series that year. But it looked like, but Sully, this is the beginning of good times in Baltimore. They won 101 games. They won the division. Brandon Hyde had been there a while. Now everything was clicking, and they had all. And last year they brought in Corbin Burns, and they competed with the Yankees until the Yankees put the aft thrusters on, and then the Orioles got swept out of the playoffs. Okay, fine. They lost Corbin Burns, but they still have all this great young talent. Adley Rutschman, Ryan Mountcastle. They lost Santander, but they brought in Tyler O'Neill, and they still have Cedric Mullins. They still have Kerstad. They still have Gunnar Henderson. They had all these great young players coming in, and so far it has been nothing short of a disaster. They are in dead last place. Now I know it's too early to be looking at the standings, but it's not. It's close. It's coming up to it. And the fact of the matter is, right now, as of this recording, we're about to enter late May in just a couple of days, and the Orioles, who a lot of people thought could go on to win the division, and I thought this was going to be an airtight American League East. As it turns out, the only team that is playing well are the New York Yankees. The Orioles are 15-29. They're in a 5-game hole. Their run differential is a -79. And this is a team where just nothing is going right. Now, yes, they've had injuries. They've had injuries to the team, and we've also seen they've lost Corbin Burns, and the people they brought to replace him. Kyle Gibson has been dreadful. Charlie Morton has been dreadful. Zach Eflin is hurt. Grayson Rodriguez is hurt. Colton Cowser is hurt. Okay, Jordan Westberg is hurt. They have a ton of injuries, but every team has injuries. The freaking Yankees lost freaking Garrett Cole. The freaking Yankees have had piles of injuries on their team. Every team has injuries, and you are seeing Gunnar Henderson has been okay. Jackson Holiday has been Ryan Mountcastle has been These are the players who are supposed to be having their explosive years for the Baltimore Orioles, which is why the managerial move makes sense. To bring in somebody to spark the team. Now, the person who is at least going to be the interim manager is Tony Mansolino. Tony Mansolino, who is the bench coach for the team. Actually, no, he was the third base coach. I'm sorry, he was the bench coach when he was coach for the for Cleveland in the COVID season. So now he's there, 42 years old, again, younger than me, making me depressed. Thank you very much. And he is, they lost his first game as the manager. That was today, but fine, we move on. And I don't know if he's the long-term solution. He's a baseball lifer. He's a baseball lifer. I knew nothing about the man going into today. Never made it to the major leagues. Played the Pirates organization for a few years. Has been a minor league manager for the Lake County Captains, the Lynchburg Hillcats, one of my favorite team names, the Akron Rubber Ducks, before joining first Cleveland's major league coaching staff in 2020, and he's been with the Orioles coaching staff since 2021. I find it interesting that they're going to bring in someone who is still within the organization, has been there for the last few years. Maybe he knows the players, maybe he knows the system there. I I I can't help but wonder if maybe just maybe they should be thinking of a Joe Madden or someone like that who could come out and maybe be that veteran manager who's been there, done that. But something has to be done. This is way too good a team to be at the bottom of the standings and basically be a non-contender. All right, let's hear from our good friends over at Wonderful Pistachios. There's the banner. I thought I clicked that. All right, folks. I have been someone who does a bunch of different things during the day. I teach my class, I record my podcast, and sometimes I look for a snack that's delicious, nutritious, and I can eat it on the go and have a good source of protein like Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you fuller longer. Now, as I mentioned, I'm on the go a lot. I have this job, I have that job. I'm in my car here, and sometimes you get the temptation to have a snack that's not good for you. Well, Wonderful Pistachios, they taste great, they're filling, and they do everything you'd want. How these little green wonders, they pack a protein punch, and it's a complete protein providing all 9 essential amino acids. I like the ones out of the shell. That's what I like. In, out, boom. But some people like them in the shells. They like that whole situation. And there are lots of different flavors and varieties. So whether you're running to class or getting ready to do the podcast, Wonderful Pistachios, that's the snack that works as hard as I do and you. So get snackin' and get crackin' with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Now, Rocco Baldelli was someone who I felt was on the managerial hot seat for a while because the Minnesota Twins did a face plant last year after contending for a big chunk of the season. And they started off this year as a Futterinho. And at one point, they were 8 games, say it with me, 8 games under 500 on April 20th. And they just did not look good. And then suddenly something happened. The thing that happened was the Minnesota Twins started winning games. In fact, they started winning a lot of games. And since April 20th, the Minnesota Twins, their record since then has been 19-5. Over 24 games, they won 19 of them. But it gets better, folks. They have also won, say it with me, 13 straight games. 13 games. Now, at that moment when it was on April 20th, when they fell within eight games under 500, only the White Sox had a worse record than them at that point, and they were only 1 game in the loss column ahead of the White Sox. And at that moment, Rocco Baldelli must have been saying, "Oh boy, I should probably update my LinkedIn page." The Tigers got off to a fabulous start. Cleveland got off to a fabulous start. Kansas City stubbed its toe, but Minnesota looked like this could be a truly terrible team. And then it happened. They started winning. They put together a couple wins in a row, a nice winning streak here and there. And then they fell into a losing streak. So it was kind of like, okay, maybe that was a fluke. And now they've won 13 games in a row. And I've said it before, and I will say it again, and I mean it every single time. It is never the wrong time of the year to win 13 games in a row. Yes, I know it's before Memorial Day, but do you know what? That's still 13 games in a row. And it's also, remember, Memorial Day is the first checkpoint. The Twins, who got off that rotten start, have gotten to a point where they can actually start to think about things like, all right, maybe we're contenders this year. As of right now, it's the second longest winning streak. This is according to MLB.com news, the second longest winning streak in Minnesota Twins history. And um and also they have been what is the thing they had? This is one of the longest streaks at this point of the year by a team that was sub 500. But they're doing it through a couple of ways. They've had some injuries on this team, which is one reason why there's no excuse for what's going on with Baltimore and their extraordinarily talented team. They've lost some solid players on the team. They're dealing with injuries, as does every single damn team. However, they have been getting the pitching. They've been getting the pitching big time. And when you take a look at this team, with some of the pitching performances they got a great one out of Pablo Lopez today. Joe Ryan is pitching like a Cy Young contender. Bailey Ober has pitched well, and their bullpen has really done a good job. And the thing I find interesting is that, yes, Duran is the closer, and he's a sub 1 ERA, and he's pitching great. But they don't always turn to him. It's not the automatic tyranny of the save. We got to give it to him each time. This is a team that has a pretty deep bullpen, and they've been shutting teams out left and right. In today's game, they wound up shutting out the Milwaukee Brewers. In Saturday's game, Pablo Lopez and the team shut out the Milwaukee Brewers, and it was a 7-0 game. Jeffers homer, Christian Vasquez, who's been hitting up a storm, even though his overall stats aren't great, but he's getting some big hits after big hits. Ty France has been getting big hits. Jeffers has gone 4 for 5 today. Lopez threw 6 shutout innings, and Topa and Funderburk. I mean, there are these pitchers who some of you may not even know are pitching wonderfully for them. And now that means Rocco Baldelli can actually sit back and say, okay, maybe we're in this. And maybe Carlos Correa can come back for that collision and dust himself and get out there. Ryan Jeffers is starting to hit. They're seeing, as I said, contributions from Ty France. And you're also seeing that there are people like Brooks Lee is contributing. Anyone had him going on there? And anyone go on that Ryan would be one of the best starting pitchers? They would be doing this really without getting much out of Byron Buxton and Carlos Correa. They're getting Roger Clemens's kid. Roger Clemens's kid, Cody, has hit a couple of home runs recently. None of this makes sense, but this is part of it. Now, of course, this hasn't necessarily mean that they've leapfrogged into the division lead at this point. But now Rocco Baldelli can look at his team, which is, as of this recording, 4 games out of the central lead, but also, as of this recording, has put themselves into the wild card situation. And in about a week and a half, we can really start looking at the standings. And about a week and a half, we can see that this team, which had a negative run differential, now has a positive one, has climbed into a playoff situation and can now look at the next third to figure what the hell they're supposed to do. It's never the wrong time. And in some ways, this is an ideal time because it can wake up the franchise. It can wake up the team. And the same thing can be said about Marmol and the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals who have won 3 in a row right now. The Cardinals who are creeping up on the Cubs. Remember, they started off to a point where they just looked lifeless. And Marmol was someone who I thought, you know what, folks, what are we doing with this guy? He's been there for a few years now, and it's not working out. This team was 5 games under 500 in May. We're still in mid-May, but they were 14-19 on May 2nd, and just looked like they just stumbling and bumbling and stumbling. Well, since then, they are 12-1. They've played 13 games since then, and they've won 12 of them. And the one day they lost, they made it up because it was a doubleheader. Now, how are they doing it? What the hell is going on with the St. Louis Cardinals? Well, they are getting, let's take a look at what happened today. The fact of the matter is the Cardinals have been taking on some solid teams. And they've been taking on teams like the Phillies and Kansas City. And today, 1-0 game. Jordan Walker gets, he does the solo home run, but the rest of it comes from the pitching staff. And Michaelis comes on and pitches great. So I don't quite know what to make of this because I thought the Cardinals were probably going to rebuild. But the one thing I bet they're glad is they didn't trade away Nolan Arenado. But the other thing is, this is a message for teams like the Pirates. This is a message for teams who started the season with some talented players and didn't really get off to the great start. You can turn it around. A big winning streak is there and available. And maybe, just maybe, some of these teams are hoping that a managerial change can be the thing that sparks it. Or maybe the threat of a managerial change could have sparked what happened in Minnesota and St. Louis. All right, let's hear from our good friends over at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are bananas, absolutely banana boats. The defending champs are gone. The number one seed in the East is gone. Are the Oklahoma City Thunder going to go on to the conference finals to face Minnesota? Or will the Denver Nuggets, who changed their coaches just on the eve of the playoffs, are they going to go to the conference finals and have home court advantage? The Knicks have home court advantage. The Minnesota Timberwolves are 4 wins away from the NBA finals. Oh my goodness, there's never been a better time to get on the action, and FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game. Before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, same game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win. Now, if you're going to be picking a Minnesota Timberwolves player to go well, or wondering, is this going to be a coin toss on Sunday between the Nuggets and the Thunder, you better head on over to FanDuel. Now, if you can find your live prop bets mid-game based on how the action unfolds, I bet you're going to have a great time. You can get a read on who's heating up, and why not back it up with a same-game parlay? How could a $200 bonus in bets add excitement if your first $5 bet hits? Well, guess what? If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you get $200 of bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, we have ourselves an absolutely wild slate of games happening on Sunday. The Giants have been creeping up and saying, hey, don't forget about us. They've won both of the first 2 games of it's not the Bay Bridge series, it's with the Highway 80. They walked off the 3 home runs the other day for Ramos, and today a walk-off hit, and the Giants won 1-0. Clayton Kershaw's return to the Dodgers was a flopperino, and the Angels wound up beating the Dodgers 11-9, and the Padres lost their game to the Seattle Mariners, who sit atop the American League West. So that means the Giants are making up ground against LA and San Diego. And we got to see Diaz striking out Aaron Judge in a thrilling 3-2 game with the Mets over the Yankees. And remember, I talked about just leave Rafael Devers alone. Stick him at DH. Don't make him at third. Don't put him at first. Just let him hit. And so he's like, that's really selfish. Shut up. And what did he do today? 3 hits, including a walk-off home run in a game where the Red Sox look absolutely dead. So let's take a look at who's playing on Sunday. The Red Sox are finishing up their series, trying to win it against Atlanta. Bello, who I believe is a birthday boy, versus Schwellenbach. We'll see what happens there. By the way, the Braves got off that horrible start, but they're now back up to 500. The All-Texas series has Valdez versus Leiter going. We're going to see how the new manager of the Orioles goes as Eflin goes up against Soraka in the what is it, the Beltway series between the Orioles and the Nats, the all Pennsylvania series. Abel is pitching for the Phillies, and it's Paul Skeens Day. Let's see if the Pirates can score any runs from him and get off the schneid. Barrios is pitching for Toronto. Will they be the next managerial change against the Tigers, who remain on top of the AL Central? The Guardians have to dust themselves off. They've been stubbing their toe recently, as have the Reds. All teams in Ohio have been stubbing their toe. The All Florida series. Let's get excited about that. Quantrill against Boz. Oh, I wish Alcantara was pitching better than he is. The All Missouri. Am I saying it right? That doesn't sound right. You know what I'm talking about. Kansas City versus the Cardinals. Cardinals want to continue pitching well. Former Cardinal Waka is going for the Royals. The Twins have not announced the starter yet as of this recording, hoping to make it 14 games in a row. Peralta of the Brewers want to put an end to that. The Chicago series has Ray versus Cannon. White Sox look terrible. Sacramento and the Giants are playing. Verlander is looking for his first victory of the year. The Rockies and the Diamondbacks are locking antlers. Dollander, who is the big Rockies pitching star, is going to try to put the Rockies in the win column. I mentioned the Angels and the Dodgers, Consolin versus Kikuchi. The Angels have played the Dodgers really well. Give them credit. Mariners, Padres, which I think would be a really intriguing World Series matchup. King versus Wu. And the Subway Series, Peterson versus Fried. Fried has been really an astonishingly great pickup for the Yankees. So let's throw out the trivia question. Been talking a lot about Orioles managers and the Oriole managerial change. Here's the question. The Orioles have won 3 World Series in their history. Who managed the first Orioles World Series championship? The first of 3 that they've won. Who was the first manager to manage the Orioles to the title? Put your answer right down there below and follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever they're calling it these days. And be sure to make us, first of all, make us the first listen. For your second listen, stay on this feed and get the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night, every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB or YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Talking about the Brandon Hyde firing and why it really makes sense. Minnesota's winning streak, that doesn't make sense. And previewing a slate of games for Sunday. This has been Locked On MLB. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.